Welcome everyone to this session of the Yale Alumni Association Create with Impact series. My name is Wendy Maldonado D'Amico, and I am Yale College class of 1993. I am so pleased to introduce my guest for today, Laura Meléndrez, a 2016 graduate of the Yale School of Management, who has a degree and a master's of advanced management. She is co-founder and managing director of Amor and Rosas, an ethical fashion brand that brings together modern designs with Mexican handmade embroidery. I'm actually wearing one of her company's dresses today. I love it. So Laura joins us today from Mexico City. Laura, welcome.
Thank you, Wendy. I'm so happy to be here, and I'm just hoping to share a little bit of my experience with you. And hopefully someone finds new inspiration to start their own business.
Excellent. I love it. Okay, so let's get started. I'm curious. I'd love to know how your Yale experience influenced your decision to start Amor and Rosas.
Well, I always knew that I wanted to start my own business. I was just like looking for the right idea. And that was one of the reasons I decided to go to SOM. I was like, okay, I need to learn about new things. So I decided to take a few classes about social entrepreneurship and uh, environmental impact that was like aligned with business. And that gave me a few ideas, but I would say that the real motivation came from the whole community that I found on campus. At the beginning, I was working as an intern for Rodrigo Castro.
Yes, I know him. He's awesome.
Yeah, he's awesome. So I was helping him because he was like, I know nothing about marketing. And he was already part of the community. And I was like, okay, Rodrigo, I'm going to help you. And I think what the funny thing is that at the beginning, I thought that I was the one helping him, but he was the one helping me because he just like showed me everything that was going on, and just like I realized all the resources that were available. So I was like, wow, this is so different to going to school back in Mexico, right? So I was just like, okay, I need to get involved. And then that's how everything started, right? So because he before he was YI, so he was also part of YI, and I would just like learn about the programs, and then just like always read about the new initiatives and the invitation they have and how they were encouraging students to be entrepreneurs. So I think just being there around people who also want to be entrepreneurs was like a big motivation and a big inspiration. But then the thing I needed to find was the idea. And and I knew it had to like that I wanted to do something with women. And I would never imagine that it was going to be fashion, to be honest. But then I learned about everything that was happening in the fashion industry, and that somehow just like made sense with Mexico and the hand embroidery skills that you can find here, and my love for everything that's handcrafted. So I was like, okay, maybe there's something there. So that was one of the projects for one of the classes, and that's where the initial idea was shaped. Then now that I think about it, it's completely different to the execution, but it was a good start.
Excellent. That's so interesting. I didn't know the Rodrigo part. The world is very small. That's all I have to say. So the designs that you have for Amor and Rosas are very innovative. I find them so fresh because they're modern and stylish, but you're also incorporating this traditional Mexican embroidery, and often it has indigenous designs incorporated into it. Fashion, I just find it to be a very courageous place to stake out in fashion because fashion is so competitive, it's so fickle. I'm curious as to understand why you and your co-founders decided to establish yourselves at this intersection as opposed to being totally modern or totally indigenous.
Yeah, well, when we were conceiving the idea, we knew that we had to use the skills of the artisans, right? So hand embroidery was the technique that really cut up, like really catch our attention, and that's why we decided to go with it. And about the aesthetics, at the beginning we weren't sure, especially because like we didn't have a lot of fashion experience, like maybe as consumers, but we never worked in fashion. So
Mhm.
we were just like testing a few ideas. The initial product look completely different to the product we have right now. So it was just like testing different ideas and seeing how the results will look like, and if the market would appreciate it. But the other thing is that we were like, okay, we do love everything that's handmade, but we don't feel like attracted to the final product. So how can we use those techniques that are very traditional and modernize them in a way that we love them and we want to wear them? So that
Right.
was the initial thing. Is like we want to make something that we want to wear. So yeah,
Exactly.
modern, and it also has to have a good story behind, like as women, like knowing that we can just like invest our money in clothing that it's helping someone makes so much sense than just buying fashion, like regular fashion. And yeah, it's like a smaller market, like because like we know it's not going to be like what everyone is going to appreciate, because we do need consumers that have travel, or that are more conscious about the decisions, so that makes the market smaller.
Mhm.
But I think for us it was like very clear in a way that we had to create something that was traditional but modern, and then the result will the a result that we will love to wear. And that's what it is. Amor and Rosas, like if you look at the designs, they are so easy to wear, they are so simple, they are streetwear, they are for everywhere, they are not pretentious at all. Like even yesterday I was at the store and there was this lady and she was like, well, I don't have anything beautiful because I live in a farm, but I like this one and it's so beautiful. This is going to be the nicest stuff I have and I can still wear it at the farm. So I think that's what it has to be. Like we want pieces that you can dress up or dress down, like that have a good aesthetic, that are timeless. And I think we have succeed on that way. And yeah, I don't know if you.
Yeah, that's perfect. That's perfect. So I'm curious about your design process. Can you tell us a little bit about how you work with these women to design and make your clothing?
Yeah, about the process. So what we do in order to design is like at the beginning we stopped producing products like or producing new collections last year. So this year we create a new collection, and the way we are doing it is that we conceive the whole idea in Mexico City, and that's like the silhouettes, the styles, the textiles, the color palette, and then the most important part to us is the theme, because although everything is handmade, it's all about the graphics, because we need to choose a theme that is going to be translated into a drawing, and then the drawing is going to be a stencil for the artisans to create the embroidery. So once we have the theme, we create basic drawings that are just the references for them to create the embroidery. And it's just like if you look at them, they are very basic drawings. It's just like a line.
Hmm.
Then we add like small numbers to the drawings that are the colors of the threads
Hmm.
and the instructions to them. Then back in Chiapas, they open the packages and the instructions are there, but they are incomplete. And that's one of the things I love, because they have to fill in the blanks and they need to input their own creativity and interpret what we want to make. And it's always amazing to see the final product, because although we do ask for it, when it comes back to Mexico City and we open the box, is just like a different thing. And then even when we have been making a style for a long time, sometimes it just changes the colors. And there's a lady at the studio and she's an intern in design. She's a design intern and she's like, Laura, why are they always changing the colors? I was like, well, whatever, they are unique pieces, just embrace it. And I think that's beautiful because and it's also beautiful that I'm not a fashion designer and I'm not obsessed with having a standardized product, because otherwise I would be like, this is dismissed, you need to redo it. And it's impossible to work like that if you want to work with the artisans, and also if you really like or enjoy everything that's unique and handcrafted. You need to understand that every piece has its own beauty, and even and you always find a new customer or the right customer for that piece, because then you can say like, okay, but this color palette is unique, so take it, we will make it again because someone in Chiapas decided to mix the colors in that way. And then at the end, once we have the embroidery, they send the embroidery to Mexico City, and that's when we make the clothing. We assemble everything there. And I think another part that's very important is when we are making the samples, they're taking the time it takes them to make the first sample. And then later we use that information to determine the price. So we negotiate based on how many hours it takes them. Then I take the whole I cost the piece, and then I set up a price. And if I realize that the price point is too high, then I need to go back to them and be like, okay, this design is beautiful, but what can we do to lower the hours it's taking to make this piece of embroidery? And then we just like negotiate around it. And getting to use like implementing this system has been tricky because they aren't used to negotiate, right? Which seems very basic, right? Because every time we work with a supply, like with a customer and a supplier, negotiating a price is something very basic. So I think that has been one of the most important things we have give them or taught them. Because if in the future they work with new customers, now they are going to be very confident about, okay, this is how we set up prices.
Right, right. Very interesting. So this next question is a little sensitive, just setting that up. The fashion industry has been accused of cultural appropriation, particularly with regards to indigenous influences. Carolina Herrera, Kendall Jenner, Nike, big brands, big names, these come to mind just immediately on that front. For you, as a creative who is working with indigenous communities in the fashion industry, I'm really interested to know where you see the line between cultural appropriation and creative influence. How do you reconcile this in the work that you do, in your products, and in your brand?
Yeah, well, at the beginning, I wanted to stay away from this because, like, I remember 5 years ago, also Isabel Maran was everywhere because she stole this design from Oaxaca.
Yes.
I was like, okay, I think like there's so many ways of making clothing that I don't need to copy anything, and I don't need to use any of the traditional drawings from them. So I decided to stay away from that and just create our own drawings, which also help us modernize them because they're different, they're fresh, they're just like younger and just like unique. So I was like, okay, for Amor Rosas, we are going to have our own drawings and we are going to work with them, but we are going to modify the technique in a way that doesn't look that like the traditional one. And that also brings up like other situations, right? Like, because there are brands here in Mexico that they say they want to preserve the traditional drawings and the whole culture in the same way. But the way I think in it is that it's better for the artisans to make good money than preserving culture. Of course, there's an opportunity there, but that's not my mission. I think for me, it's paying the right price to them so they have a better life, and that we can just like make whole different new drawings that are unique and innovative. And they also are starting to make their own drawings and modify their work, because they also make blouses and just different items that they sell at local markets. And the other side of this is like, if you really want to work with the artisans and use the traditional drawings, at least collaborate with them in a way that they can benefit from the profits. So we do have a few designs that we use the Otomi culture,
Mhm. Yeah.
and it has been super popular. Like even Louis Vuitton make a bag, and I think also Carolina Herrera, this big dress, it was inspired by Otomi drawings, and they're so beautiful. If you want to use them, at least make it authentic and go take the time to go to the communities, find the person that belongs to the community and ask them to collaborate with you and pay them the right price. I don't see any issue with that, but then you need to call this a collaboration and make sure you're paying the right price to them. And then it's even better because then when you are selling the product, you can also have the actual maker and the actual person that is preserving the culture to be part of the story. So I think the one of the reasons maybe the brands do it is because they are rushing up to have something new, and they don't take the time to go and really understand where's the idea coming from.
Hmm.
And they know it's going to be a hit, but then when they get into trouble, they're like, oh, maybe with one more month, I could have just like go to all the way to Hidalgo and talk to the actual artisan. And because then there are a few other brands here in Mexico that what they do is that they pay the first piece. So they go to the artisan, and then the artisan does the whole work,
Yeah.
embroidery, and then they digitalize the piece and they reprint it. And I'm like, okay, that's also not good. If you're going to print something, it's just like because we know everything about copyright. If
Yeah.
you buy an original piece from an artist and you are going to print it, then you need to pay the artist for
Yeah.
their work. So if you already have a whole law into place that works for artists, then why can't we just like apply the same concept to artisans, which I think it sounds very basic, but then I don't think brands are really thinking this situation through. They are just like, okay, it's a reference, and they get excited about the references, and then when they realize the final product looks like the original reference.
Oh, tricky, complicated stuff. Thank you so much. We're going to need to widen down here, so I just have a couple more questions for you. Um, Next question is just around how you find your inspiration. I'm so curious as you're bridging the modern with these indigenous designs that are inspiring you. Where do you personally find your inspiration to keep creating collections and new pieces?
Yeah, well, it's always different, but most of the times it comes from Mexico, right? It has an ethical fashion brand from Mexico. We want to talk about our culture all the time. So this last collection is called Warrior, and it's about pre-Hispanic, yeah, like pre-Hispanic history. So we just like we're studying about. So what I wanted to do is like, okay, so Asian culture has very clear the concept of duality. And then I found out that also in Aztec culture we have the duality symbols. So we have a god for the night and a god for the day, for night and day. And I was like, wow, I don't think this is very common, and I didn't see it anywhere before. So I was like, okay, I want to create a collection based on that, on the duality. And then it turns out when I was doing the whole research, that there are all these beautiful stories about the creation of the world based on Aztec mythology. And I was like, wow, this is so beautiful. So that's one of the sources. Uh, and I get, well, it's called the creation of the world, and it's so interesting. Like according to Aztecs, we are living on the fifth sun, and before we used to be giants, but because the humanity destroyed itself as we commonly do, these two gods had to partner and help us to create humanity again. So they had to go to the underworld, and come back with our bones. But then on the way to Teotihuacan, the bones were broken, and that's why we are half the size of our ancestors. And it's so beautiful. So I was just like, okay, we have all these materials, so how can we carry beautiful graphics that represent this? And that's a new collection, and I call it Warrior because right now we all need to be super strong and fight to be happy, to find our mental peace. And that's the inspiration, just like finding things that I like, are related to me, and just like come up with a positive message. The other collection I love, it's called Be Aware, and it's about endangered species from Mexico. And well, one of the most famous one is the jaguar, and I'm like, how funny it is that we are killing the jaguars, and instead of us being aware of them, they need to be careful of us. um, and then the other one that I love is Love Garden, because like we also strive for women empowerment. And then I have I came to the realization that most of the women I talk to, their self-esteem is super low. And I'm like, why are we comparing ourselves to this image of beauty that's so different to what we are? And we're just trying to find beauty somewhere else, but not inside of us. So I was just like thinking about Love Garden, because all it's like if you go to a garden, if you look at all of the flowers there, you will realize they are all different, but they are all beautiful. And that's the same way with women. So I just wanted to share that with our community and our customers. And that's the inspiration. And I usually have so many ideas, and I'm like, okay, which one is the best one? And I think the next collection that I'm going to make, it's going to be a spring summer resort, and I'm thinking about archaeological sites in Mexico, and also the flora around it, because there are like these beautiful trees that grow in Oaxaca that are also in danger. So we'll see. I'll show you. The beautiful thing about working with hand embroidery, and I'm so surprised, is that the more I work with it and the more I understand the technique, um, I get more ideas of how to expand it and how to use it different. And I think it's like that we got super lucky with an embroidery, because you can make so many different executions. So now I'm thinking that maybe we can do like digital printing and then just add details to it. And that way we can make pieces that are more affordable, instead of just having like pieces that are all hand embroidered, because then the price would be insane. And that's
Right.
also one of the things we care about. Like we want to make beautiful things that are affordable, not super expensive. Um, and it aligns with what I was saying, like pieces that are easy to wear, that you can wear several times, that you are going to love, that are going to become like, especially with the jackets, your favorite jacket that you are going to find wearing every single week. And also, like how can we continue making them in ways that look different, and we as a brand evolve, so we align more with fashion. Because what you were asking me about, the place where we decided to start from, where we are traditional but also modern, I wouldn't say that we have the best fashion style, but we have a style. And we have been evolving in a way that at some point we are going to be like, our aesthetics are going to be so beautiful, that you won't be able to say that's ethical fashion or handmade from the first sight. Like you're going to see it, you're going to feel for it, and then you're going to realize that everything is handmade.
Love it. Last question. Will have to be quick since we both have to wrap here. But what advice do you have for other Yalees who want to use creativity to impact their communities and work?
Well, that's a good question. Well, I would say creativity, it's everywhere. Even, and if you want to create an impact, that means that you want to solve something. And in order to solve it, you need to get super creative with the solution. So just like understanding that life is full of challenges and problems, and that we need to so life is always going to be complicated, right? And we are going to always going to have challenges. But if we keep an open mind and a positive attitude, and we understand that we come to this world to solve problems, then you start exercising your creativity every day. Because then, even in your personal life, when something wrong happens, instead of freaking out, you'd have to be like, okay, how can I solve this? I am alive, therefore I have problems, and how am I going to use my creativity to solve this? And if you want to move this to a bigger impact and just help your community to solve a point, then I'm sure that once you do this as a lifestyle, you are going to get all of these ideas. Like speaking about me, like at least once a week, I see something and I'm like, wow, I think I can solve this, or there's an opportunity here to do things in a better way. So just like keep an open eye, stay positive, solve your own issues, and then find bigger issues to solve.
Excellent way to end this conversation. I love it. Laura, thank you so very much for this conversation. I enjoyed it. I could talk to you all afternoon. I can't wait to come and visit you in your studio in Mexico City, and I can't wait to see the new lines that are coming out. Very excited for that. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you so much. You have a home here, and
Gracias.
talk soon.
Okay. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.